Alright, so we're back again. You see the title, you see the video, you know what this is, so let's just get right into it.
I wasn't planning to go to college. That wasn't like a goal of mine. My parents were like, well, you should apply to at least one college. And I was like, we'll never get in here. And then I went to Yale.
Humble brag. I accidentally got into Yale.
Should we just like go down and do
intros?
Yeah, I'm Sade. I'm 20.
Okay, so it looks like they came in, immediately were given an IQ test, and then, you know, they were put out there on the stage, and now they have to rank each other based off intelligence from most to least, without any other context other than, I guess, just conversations amongst themselves. So I'm gonna guess that they're gonna probably focus, you're gonna have some people that focus on formal education, and they're gonna think they should be ranked the highest, or they're gonna rank people the highest based off formal education, even though this is supposed to be a measure of intelligence. And then you're gonna have some people that are probably slept on because they don't have a Ph.D. in whatever field of study. So this will be interesting to watch. We'll see. Are they gonna do that, or are they gonna actually ask questions that would indicate or gauge someone's intelligence, or are they just going to assume based off of some of those other criteria? Looks like they're about to do intros. So after they do their intros, I'm going to try to put them into their rankings before they bias me, because once I hear some of their conversation, it might bias me a bit. But I'm just going to go off first impressions too, because that's what this is called. IQ versus first impression. So I'll give my first impression too and try to rank them. But let's see what they say.
24. I work in finance. I have a bachelor's degree. I went to Yale.
I'm Tyler. I'm 21. I'm a high school graduate, and I work in the Marine Corps.
I'm Kaylee. I'm 25. I'm a software developer. I went to Ohio University, and I have a bachelor's degree.
Maria. I'm 30 years old. I have my Ph.D. in cancer biology, and I work in a biotech industry. Grad school, I went to University of South Carolina, and undergrad, I went to University of Florida.
Hi everybody, my name is Sean. I'm 27. I'm the director of social media for a company, and I also work for a digital ad agency. I got a double major in dance and cultural anthropology. Undergrad, I went to Loyola Marymount University.
Hi everybody, I'm Ray. I'm 24. I graduated with a bachelor's degree from Harvard recently, and I work in consulting.
Oh, y'all are babies.
I know, that's what I was saying, is age a factor?
Okay, so before they get into it and bias me, I'm going to try to go ahead and rank them just based off of first impression. So I'm going to base it, since I don't really have much to work on right now, I'm going to base it based off of their career field and kind of just hearing them introduce themselves. I'm going to go number 1 as Ray. And the reasoning behind that is, this is all about IQ. This is intelligence. And if I'm measuring intelligence, I'm measuring it based off of how do you deal with new information and sort through it. So formal education isn't going to mean a ton to me. He did go to Harvard, but that's not weighing too heavily into my decision. So I'm going him number 1 because he's a consultant. As a consultant, all you're doing is dealing with new information constantly. You go into a brand new business, and every business runs totally differently. They always have some unique bundle of spreadsheets that's running their entire business or something like that behind the scenes, and you got to make sense of it and understand that in whatever kind of consulting he's in. So I'm going to put him number 1. I'm going to take the software engineer as number 2. With software engineering, you can Google a lot of things and look up a lot of things. You can spend your whole day on Stack Overflow and find possible solutions, but it is still a job entirely based off of problem solving. So I'm going to put her as number 2 as a software engineer. Number 3, I'm going to go with our Marine. I just think they're sleeping on him because he's a Marine. Like, I imagine that they're not going to rank him highly, and he could very well also end up being number 1. But for me, I'm going to put him as number 3. At number 4, I'm going to put the guy wearing all the rainbow stuff with the pink hair. I can't recall his name at the moment, but he had on a Care Bears shirt. I'm going to put him at number 4 because the same reason. So intelligence is all about adaptability and change. and he's a director of social media, I think he said. So if you're directing in a department, you have to be able to adapt and change. And also, social media is just a series of experiments. So you're putting out a post, you're looking at engagements, you're adjusting, you're tweaking, you're measuring. So I'm going to say that this guy can probably see patterns. That's most of what social media is. It's pattern games, especially for people that are running it for companies. So I'm going to put him at 4. And then the girl that accidentally got into Yale, I'm going to put her at 5. And I'm going to put the Ph.D. that's like curing cancer at 6. Not to diminish at all anyone that's in that field, but I just wasn't getting the vibe from her when she started speaking. I think when she said, like, I got a Ph.D. in this, in her head, she went to number 1. But in my head, that kind of pushed her back to 6, because that's a good measure of your ability in that specific skill, but it isn't telling me anything about intelligence necessarily. All right, let's see what they do.
Yeah, it gives you like years of experience.
Yeah, I guess
We need to, maybe it's good to identify what intelligence means to everybody.
I think intelligence is better defined as your adaptability and your problem-solving skills more than it is your education. Obviously, like the education, the stuff you've been through puts a lot into play in it because it gives you more resources, more thoughts to draw from. The formal education definitely helps, but I don't think it's in any way essential.
So what is the most essential?
So the most essential thing would probably be common sense.
Yeah, so for me personally, I
Tyler's
think
right.
intelligence is both EQ, IQ, and that common sense, street smart intelligence, all of that combined.
Okay, she's definitely going to be last. The first thing she said when they started defining intelligence is shifted the conversation away from intelligence. So Tyler's definition of intelligence, to me, is what I would agree with, problem solving and things of that nature. When she said what intelligence was, she said it's a combination of EQ and street smarts. And EQ is not intelligence. IQ, which is what we're here to measure, is your intelligence quotient. EQ is your emotional quotient. Emotions are not a measure of intelligence. Now, if we're talking about what makes a more holistic person, what makes you maneuver better in the world, yes, you have to have emotional intelligence as well, or the emotional quotient side of things. But I think this is about IQ because y'all completed an IQ test. You can't measure your emotional quotient through an IQ test. It's not designed to measure that. So I'm going to go ahead and put her last now because she's already trying to shift the goalpost on us a little bit.
Well, consciously or unconsciously, when they see someone, form an opinion immediately. Like I'm sure we all did right away.
When I saw you, I told myself, Maria, do not judge him just by his looks. He could be throwing you off, or that's just who he is, but he can talk the talk and walk the walk. Sean, I didn't want to judge him based on the way he looks or dresses or acts, so I was like, I think he's intelligent.
First impressions, I would put him at the bottom only because when I was in school, all the other people with like the bright neon colors and stuff, they were typically the ones doing worse in classes. If we were ranking confidence, I'd definitely put Sean at very first place.
So what is the definition that we're going with is the biggest question.
I like your definition.
I know, I was gonna say, I like my definition. It combines everything.
Does anyone have any like initial?
You can be honest.
Start on that side. I'm done going first.
I feel like I have a good combination of both, like book smart and street smart. So yeah, I think I have some input on that. There's so many aspects to intelligence. It really goes beyond IQ and EQ. Even those two different factors really don't really capture what it really means to be intelligent.
I know I'm not, from Yale, I don't have a PhD, but what I lack in those areas, I'm able to still problem solve and use my own skill set, my emotional intelligence as well as my social intelligence.
Besides my education and background, I feel like I have high emotional intelligence, I'm aware of my surroundings.
As a software developer, my problem solving skills are obviously top notch, I think I would say. My whole life I've kind of had to fight to be seen as intelligent. I think I'm so—
All my life I had to fight, nigga. Okay, let's keep going.
used to having to do that as a woman, to just step up and be like, yep, I deserve to be here. My first job out of college, I was working at a law firm. A gentleman came up to me and said, hi, you don't look like somebody that would work at a law firm. You look like somebody I'd go on spring break with. And I'm like, what?
Obviously, out of everyone here, I've got the least formal education. I consider myself intelligent. My mental dedication and my ability to adapt and to problem solve. What I do in the Marine Corps, I'm a seabird defense specialist. So I think that by virtue of what I do, that already requires some amount of intelligence.
Sorry, quick question. So do you think that only certain people can do your job, or do you think anyone can do your job?
Only certain people. You have to take the ASVAB before you go into the military. That's not.
What kind of question is that? Do you think only certain people can do your job? Of course. Only certain people can do any job well. I'm gonna stop picking on her. I'm going way too hard on her. I don't understand the purpose behind that question. Was she trying to say that anyone can step in and do your job easily just because you're a Marine, or which is a crazy idea? Or was she saying, do you really think your job's that hard? Or I don't know, maybe she was just trying to gain more insight around it. But something about that question just felt kind of off.
Really how much you know, but how well you can learn information. And I got a 94 on that. It's not an amount of how much you study, how much you know. You're not gonna really get better at learning. Does that make sense?
I strongly disagree with you don't get better at learning. The idea that you can get better at learning is a pretty big signifier of intelligence. I'm very much dyslexic. I have ADHD, and I'm on the autism spectrum. Dyslexia means that there's a big gap in comprehension. So I was scoring 99th percentile in certain areas and like 3rd percentile in others. I'll never be able to learn another language. I took Spanish for 12 years, and I can still basically only order a burrito.
So I have a question. Why did you go to Yale, and why did you go to Harvard?
My parents are immigrants from China, and I'm a first-generation immigrant as well, and college student as well. My family always really stressed the importance of formal education. For me, that was something that I really strived for.
I wasn't planning to go to college. That wasn't like a goal of mine. My parents were like, well, you should apply to at least one college. And I was like, I'll never get in here. And then I went to Yale.
Why don't you guys rank each other from 1 to 6, including yourself, and give reasons why you want to do what you're doing?
I gotta go 1.
No.
Oh yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would.
Damn, she put my boy Tyler last. He's not last. I don't know if he's top 2 or whatever, but he's definitely not last. And I'm putting Ph.D. last. I just don't trust it.
I would rank you as a 6, not meaning that you're not intelligent. I also think that I don't place a lot of value on the military.
Period.
No, full stop.
I'd probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
He's being so nice. He knows he's number 1. He said, I'll do 1, 2, put me 3. Get out of here, man. You know you're number 1.
I'm sorry.
I'm the villain this episode.
Does anyone think they're like either end of the spectrum?
I'd say I'm 1, if nothing else, because I know what I'm about and I'm sure of that.
Wait, you guys have to rank everyone too. That is so unfair. No.
I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to look past the education part. Going to college, I think you learn a lot, if nothing else emotionally, but I still think you're smart.
Man, everybody's putting Tyler last and kind of citing the college thing. But everyone I know that went to college just talks about how bullshit college is. Like everyone I know that went to college, especially the really intelligent people, just talk about how it's a waste of time and something you kind of have to do to get your foot in the door for certain career paths. So it's kind of crazy to see these people so stuck on it, because I don't think it has anything to do with intelligence. I know some people that have a lot of degrees and a lot of credentials and published research, and they're not very intelligent.
Thank you.
Sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, immigrant parents, first generation going to college, humble, modest. 2, me, I don't know, PhD, cancer biology scientist. I work in a biotech company. We make COVID-19 testing kits, stuff like that.
She will be last. Okay.
And then 6. It has nothing to do with your background. I don't think you really have the highest EQ out of all of us. Tyler, he ranked
This
last
isn't
for
an
me
EQ
personally
measure,
because
though.
the way he carries himself. He was ranking intelligence based on his point of view and not taking in other people's point of views and compiling results, but really just came down to his body language, his demeanor, the way
He was ranking intelligence based off the definition of intelligence, which to me boosts him higher in this ranking. It wasn't about taking inventory about how everybody else felt about intelligence and then ranking accordingly. It was about who is the most intelligent, and y'all have taken an IQ test. So this is about ranking based off of who do I think is the most intelligent. Not emotionally intelligent, not street smart, none of those things that you all added into the definition to broaden it to maybe give yourself a better chance in the standing or to diminish someone else. He's doing the true measure of the test. So for me, that pushes him higher, and it definitely makes me want to put you at 6 or whoever's last.
carried himself, the way he acted towards the group.
I would put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out 6. So the reason why I put you at number 1 is I think you have the highest, not only EQ score out of everybody, but the way you present yourself, as well as being a PhD student, I think is just like a huge thing. And I put myself 6 because I feel like I might be the weakest in terms of actual IQ score. Hopefully I can make it up in everything else. So I did put myself as least intelligent. However, if it can't be me, I definitely think Tyler, unfortunately, his way of thinking is linear. And I think intelligence is almost like a sphere. It's a picture. And right now he's only coloring with...
Let's just pause one time for the outfit. And let's continue.
one color than, you know, with the rainbow.
So who got the most number 1s? Thank you. Move down.
Who got the most?
Sean A was pretty up there too.
Tyler not
Like
moving.
you were definitely 3, right?
Yeah, I'm in between
You were
Harvard and
4.
Yale.
5.
I think that I sort of expected to be ranked a little bit lower. At first glance and first interaction with me, it's hard to tell how intelligent I am. It's hard to tell how intelligent anybody is.
Is anyone upset with where they're standing?
I think it makes sense that I'm down here. Like the guy who graduated from high school and then joined the military, he probably wouldn't be like high up on there. If I was in their shoes, I definitely would have also ranked myself among the lowest.
I do feel like there might be a prejudice acting in terms of ranking you
Okay, I was thinking that
highly.
too.
But I agree with the ranking. I think you probably are the most intelligent out of all of us. I would feel weird placing you there and not acknowledging the dynamics in which we did so.
But y'all didn't place him there because of his race, or at least if y'all did, y'all never stated that. So if that's the dynamics in which y'all put him there, that's what I guess is referred to by Thomas Sowell as type A discrimination or group discrimination. When you don't have more detailed information about a person, you essentially make a decision about them based off of the group data that you know. So if you know that Asians in general are high performers in school and that culture focuses on the importance of school, then you would rank him high. But he told you specifically his story and his parents that value education and how that value of education was transferred on to him. So that's not group discrimination at that point. You now have specific information about his upbringing to know that that is the case, to know that his family did value education and he valued education as well. Oh, so now they're taking the IQ test.
Hearing that I had to take an IQ test was definitely hard to hear. Quantifying things for me in that realm is really hard because it gives you something really solid. Even if you don't buy into IQ tests, it still gives you a number at the end of the day, which is something you have to grapple with.
I literally thought when you said to open the computer, we're going to look at social media, that I didn't think an IQ test would be part of it.
It was kind of expected. We're being ranked by intelligence, an IQ test. It's not that far out the realm of possibility.
So number 1.
Let's just talk about the difference in how they even approach this. The person that I think is going to be last, that definitely ranked Tyler the Marine last, when they were given a computer during a conversation around intelligence, thought that they were about to look at social media. Tyler, who they're ranking last in intelligence, when he was given a computer, said, oh, we're about to take an intelligence test. We're about to take an IQ test. Just let that sink in for a second, that they ranked her number 2, the person that, when having a conversation about intelligence, thought they were about to look at social media, versus the person they ranked last, the guy that, when given a computer during a conversation about intelligence, said, yeah, it probably makes sense that we take an intelligence test now.
Number 1 is Raymond. Number 2 would be Kaylee. Number 3 will be Tyler. And number 4 would be Shada. Number 5 is Sean. And number 6 is Maria.
Damn! I think I almost had this exactly right. You would have to flip. The only thing that I did, I ranked Sean 1 level higher. So I had them 2 flipped. But Tyler actually tied with her as well. So I don't know why they listed him before her since they tied. Is that white privilege? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, I got this exactly right. Yo, look how salty the Ph.D. looks that's sitting in last place with the lowest IQ score. Look how salty she looks. But let's also acknowledge this. Everyone here is actually pretty high IQ. What's the average IQ? Psychologists revise the test every few years in order to maintain 100 as the average. Most people, about 68%, have an IQ between 85 and 115. So, yeah, I mean, all of these people are above average. Even our PhD that looks super salty is above average. And also, I don't know what kind of test they gave them. I don't know if it was math-based, pattern-based, a combination of all things. I've done tests in the past that I've scored really well on that were patterns, and then some that had more math involved where I didn't do as well as I did on some of the pattern-based sort of IQ questions. But I am not very surprised by these results. I think I was pretty damn close in my guess. But damn, dude, the girl in last is looking so salty.
I think an IQ test tests something. I don't think it's intelligence. It's definitely testing something. IQ tests are now known to be flawed and based on incorrect sample sizes. I have really severe dyslexia. There's 2 questions on that test that I basically can't answer.
I'm sure if you studied for an IQ test, you would do a lot better.
Yeah.
IQ tests are just one aspect or one way to measure intelligence. It's really on a spectrum what constitutes somebody as intelligent.
Before this, all I knew about IQ tests is that they existed, and the I stands for intelligence. I've never looked into IQ tests before. Coming here today, them saying the EQ, that was the first time I've ever heard that term in my life.
Coming back to intelligence, it's not just your IQ, it's your EQ, it's your common sense, it's...
Be quiet, you're in last place. You can't speak. No, I'm just kidding. Yo, of course she's gonna say, man, this test ain't valid. This test just ranked you last in intelligence. You're not about to be like, yeah, this test is accurate.
Street smarts. Sure, it is some type of metric similar to an SAT and ACT score is a metric for getting into college, but there's more to that person than that test.
I'm actually excited I wasn't last because I thought I was gonna be last, not gonna lie. I think an IQ test is a good indicator to see how people handle pressure, but I think that's easier to make sense in our heads that, oh, you're smart and you're not smart.
Definitely don't think it's the best metric. I've been exposed to tests like these probably more than most people here. That already gives me an unfair advantage.
This is my villain redemption arc and climbing up the ladder.
That was a pretty good video from Jubilee. I'll just go ahead and kind of give my closing thoughts. So yeah, I am joking quite a bit about the PhD being ranked last. But I agree a lot with what they're all saying, right? Intelligence is a composite of different things. It isn't just problem solving. However, when we talk about IQ, which is, I'm basing this off of what the video is titled as and what the questions they were asked were. Strangers rank their intelligence, IQ versus first impressions. So if I'm just strictly taking intelligence or IQ, I think an IQ test does a pretty good job of measuring that. Do IQ tests have their flaws? Yes, every test has its flaw. But for the most part, it's about as close as we can get as far as a metric goes to measure. Is it flawed so bad that someone that's in last would then shift up to first? I don't know. Hopefully this video encourages people to not be prejudiced when thinking about intelligence and to not think, oh, that person doesn't have an higher education degree, so they're not as intelligent. Cool, that was an alarm. Or think that this person doesn't have a degree from a higher education institute, so they're not as intelligent. You know, I think the raw measure of intelligence is one thing, and then emotional intelligence is another. The blend of those things, of course, make a more complete person who will probably find more success as far as in the real world, whether it's through their career, through business, whatever it may be that they go into. But I think this was just an interesting video overall to see how they ranked each other, just kind of based off the limited amount of information they had. Yeah, I did pretty good. I got almost exactly correct on this, so I don't know. But yeah, I like Jubilee videos a lot. They usually do a pretty good job of, you know, capturing some different perspectives and pulling in some different people. They don't always capture the best of each perspective to capture that idea or argue that point the best, but videos like these I think go pretty well because there's not really too much to argue. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and subscribe if you like this style of video or any of my other videos. There'll be some recommendations listed here. But yeah, that's it for today, and stay intelligent.